Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Sometimes the best way to find a living is to stay right where you are and study with UAS online. Career-specific distance programs from the University of Alaska Southeast are the fastest way to increase your earning power.
We connect all over the world.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks again for joining us here for Friday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist for the National Weather Service. On the fire danger map, again with the winds kicking up, high fire dangers here at the Copper River Basin, up along and across the mountains there, the eastern Alaska Range, areas of here through the north central interior from the western upper Yukon, back across the Koyukuk, out in toward the Noatak Valley area, still pretty dry across the Seward Peninsula, and also dry conditions here down along the Yukon and in toward the Kuskokwim Delta areas. Moving on to the satellite imagery, I've got a band of mid and high level clouds right through here, moving through, some breaks occurring behind it, but you can see mostly sunny skies over portions of the southeast coast, up across the eastern interior, Copper River Basin, into the Tanana Valley. A lot of clearing up there to the north, and some low clouds along the Arctic coast there. You can see the storm brought the snow up that way yesterday, gradually pulling off to the east there. That did bring some pretty gusty winds to the eastern Arctic coast earlier today, all diminishing this afternoon along with the precip. And otherwise, this system as it came through just produced a few hundredths of an inch here across the southwest interior. More showers right through here coming in toward the Kenai Peninsula, southern Cook Inlet, kind of pulling back against the Alaska Range. And also in Bristol Bay, areas of rain and showers occurring today, and a lot of clouds out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. On the chart, you can see the clear areas through here. Some isolated thunderstorms did kick off, mostly here over toward the eastern border there in the greater Eagle area or to the south, but kind of a small area there, just really isolated back to the west there as of about 3 o'clock this afternoon. And then showers along this trough here from roughly Kodiak Island, definitely the southern Kenai Peninsula. Homer picked up about 1/10 of an inch of rain in the 12-hour period ending at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And both King Salmon and King Cove had about a little over 1/10 of an inch falling in that same time period. And otherwise, again, lighter amounts across the southwest interior areas, and this mostly just clouds through here, some showers, and pretty isolated though. Clouds along the North Gulf Coast, again clearing out over the Copper River Basin there, where winds were gusting anywhere from 15 to 32 miles per hour there along the Copper River, with the stronger gusts reported there around Glen Allen or Gulkana. And some sunshine here allowed temperatures into the 60s to near or into the lower 70s in some spots there across the southeast coast. Cooler 50s out toward the coastline like at Sitka. High pressure, light winds up here over the Chukchi Sea. Also high pressure at the surface, not very strong, but as the low pulled off here earlier today with the lower pressure there to the east, higher pressure building in. Winds gusted, as I mentioned, to about 30 to 35 miles an hour at Barter Island. Earlier today, that all diminishing. Areas of snow or rain and snow mix, pretty light, that also gradually diminishing, as well as the clouds, but to a lesser extent. Out to the west, big area low pressure here over the southern and south central Bering Sea, with the trough extending to the south. So again, lots of clouds and showers associated with that, and higher pressure way out to the west there, just south of the Komodorskis. And for tonight, that low center ends up in about this position by about 3 a.m. tomorrow. So Several troughs rotating around that, and look for mostly cloudy skies and scattered showers, pretty scattered over the Alaska Peninsula to the eastern Aleutians, maybe a little more numerous there over the central Aleutians, but just mostly cloudy, scattered, isolated showers over the Bering Sea areas. Dry, light winds up here over St. Lawrence Island into Norton Sound. Pretty light winds over much of the interior. These gusty winds, Copper River Basin there along the Copper River, gradually diminishing this evening. Good source of moisture, or a good batch of moisture lifting up, so look for showers to increase here along the Kenai Peninsula on the south coast, on up into Prince William Sound over to about Cordova. Some of that may be more of a rain thing going on, but definitely shower chances gradually increase here over Cook Inlet, and especially along the Alaska Range and back out here to the west-southwest. Look for a general increase in the clouds here over the Panhandle. Some of that cloudiness already sneaking in from Canada there on some easterly flow, and the showers just to the east of the border, but some of those may slip across here during the nighttime hours and bring some scattered shower conditions to that area tomorrow. But winds pretty light now along the Arctic coast. Fair skies, no precipitation, maybe some patchy fog showing up. That batch of moisture staying off to the north. And then for Saturday, kind of a mostly cloudy with a few showers around there for the southeast coast. Maybe some clearing showing up along the coastline. So some areas will be partly sunny, other areas mostly cloudy with a chance of. And quite a bit showers, cloudy skies, showers, chances pretty good tomorrow here for south central Alaska, and possibly even over into the Copper River Basin, but a more widespread area of precipitation out here to the west. Again, showers, some moderate areas of rain from maybe Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay northward there and toward the Kobuk Valley, and a little bit to the east along this trough axis there. And again, thunderstorms right through this trough axis. My weather symbols didn't have enough glue, and I guess they fell off. But back to the west, could be some embedded thunderstorms over here as well tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. High pressure over the northern Bering Sea, light winds, variably cloudy skies, maybe some patchy fog there. Same pattern right up into the Chukchi Sea in the western Arctic coast. Could see some clearing. Another pretty nice day up there. Temperatures may be pushing into the 60s for the north slope. Otherwise, lots of clouds and shower activity, not all that heavy, kind of scattered, isolated over the Aleutians there. Maybe some showers making it into the St. Paul area, possibly the Alaska Peninsula, falls past Cold Bay. But again, more numerous there, northeast Bristol Bay, right on up into across the west central interior. Looking at a low center down here, southwest of the Panhandle, but upper level low coming eastward. Southwest flow will carry that right on in later tomorrow night. Sunday, rain, periods of. Pretty good forecast for the southeast coast there. Lots of clouds, a little more showery up here to the north and possibly to the south as well. But a lot of moisture still off the coast there. Will be continuing in tomorrow night and or for Sunday night. But for Sunday here over the interior, again, chance of some scattered isolated thunderstorms from the eastern Alaska Range across the upper Tanana Valley, maybe up toward Fort Yukon, and also over here along the northwest Alaska Range, actually in and around the Denali Park area. Showers back down to the Aleutian Range, really scattering out now over the Alaska Peninsula. West-northwest flow should be VFR day for Kodiak Island Sunday. Maybe some showers developing over the mountains of the island there. Should stay dry at the airport. And higher pressure here at the surface. Clouds, low clouds, areas of fog, but winds on the light side here for the really much of the eastern central Bering Sea, but winds picking up here to the north, back up to about 25 knots there for St. Lawrence Island out of the west, and maybe a risk of some moisture slipping in toward Gamble. But this cold front bringing a better chance of rain, and again, small craft advisories developing off the coast as the forecasts read there, but a chance of rain there along the west side of the Arctic coastal areas. Again, pretty good showers here through the central interior, Koyukuk Valley, back down to the east side of the Nulato Hills areas. And another front not quite making it into the western Aleutians here on Sunday, probably waiting until Sunday evening or Sunday night. Otherwise, not too bad out here to the west. And for temperatures this afternoon, quite nice here, 70 at Juneau this afternoon. Also near that there at Annette, 64 Port Alexander, just 57 at Sitka, 54 at Elfin Cove. Otherwise 60s, lower 60s, Petersburg and Wrangell. Upper 50s here for the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound with Valdez pushing up to 59. 53 in Kenai, up to 64 in Talkeetna. Homer, 55 degrees, about the same thing down at Kodiak. And with more sunshine, temperatures into the 70s there for the Copper River Basin. Also at Delta, 71 degrees, 68 at Fairbanks, and back up to 71 over at Tanana. Farther north, about the same temperature pattern, 65 to 70 here. Copper River Basin, or the Upper Yukon Valley back in toward Bettles at 69, 68 at Ambler, 46 though at Anatuvik, but up to 55 at Arctic Village, and temperatures in the mid to upper 30s from much of the Arctic coast, hanging right at 32 degrees there at Kaktovik. Back to the west and southwest, upper 40s to mid 50s there, Selawik Valley and Kotzebue up to 51. Just 47 Kivalina, 41 at Shishmaref, 43 there at Wales, 10 degrees warmer at Nome, 39 at Gamble, 54 at Unalakleet, 62 in McGrath today, but cooler 50s down the river there with 54 at Bethel. And out west, Pribilof's near 50 this afternoon. Same thing for Dutch Harbor or Unalaska, 46 at Adak, 45 at Shimia, and upper 40s to mid 50s here for the Alaska Peninsula on up into Bristol Bay. Lows for tonight, lower 30s here along the eastern central Arctic coast, a little milder to the west. 40s, lower 50s through the central interior, 40s off to the southwest, low 40s for the Aleutians and the Pribilofs. 30s to lower to mid 40s depending on your elevation here and where you are, as well as the cloud cover over the south central Alaska Copper River Basin, upper 40s to lower 50s for the southeast coast. Highs tomorrow, some pretty nice lower 70s there showing up over the upper Yukon areas there at Fort Yukon, and pretty good conditions back to the west, Noatak, Kelly, mid 60s, and also temperatures rising into the 60s for the North Slope and even the Arctic coast, 40s to lower 50s. 50s to lower to maybe mid 60s here for the Panhandle, 50s to lower 60s, south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, Kodiak Island. Same thing for Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, low side of the 50s there, 40s out west to St. Lawrence Island. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, areas of marginal VFR possible right along the Arctic coast, otherwise VFR from the North Slope, across the Brooks Range, down into the central interior and out toward the deltas, although the Yukon Delta looks pretty good VFR to start the day out, as well as south central Alaska. Some lower stuff, maybe some IFR along the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range. IFR right along the coastline of the Panhandle. Marginal stuff covering much of the Bering Sea, as well as the Aleutians. Tomorrow afternoon, we've got IFR in the forecast here from the Chukchi Sea through the Strait, down across St. Lawrence Island, from the Pribilofs off to the west-northwest. Maybe a patch here on the south side of the Alaska Peninsula. Marginal for the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. Marginal for the Gulf of Alaska. Pretty good VFR day here for much of the Panhandle. Some marginal stuff just grazing the coastline. And it looks kind of marginal here up along the western Alaska Range. Passes shaping up like this, Anatuvik and Adigan, good VFR. Tomorrow, Lake Clark and Merrill, as well as Rainy, will be marginal. Windy, though, should be VFR. Isabel, same forecast. Mentasta, VFR, showers of the VFR variety. And for Tanita, looks good for the VFR there. Portage starting out IFR, becoming VFR. Lowest conditions in the morning, gradually improving throughout the day into the afternoon is the forecast for there. Chilkoot and White, occasionally marginal. And for the freezing levels, cooler stuff out here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, about 4,000 feet or so, and a little milder, 6,000 feet over southern Alaska, 8,000 feet along the Panhandle, just nudging into the eastern interior there and then dropping back off. Still some leftover cold air there, just exiting the eastern Arctic coast as that cold upper low tracks toward Banks Island. And then for icing here, possibly light to isolated moderate rime up over the eastern interior Tanana Valley. And of course, with the moisture coming into south central Alaska, the Alaska Range, areas of back to the southwest, Shelikof Strait, the Aleutian Range, and probably not too serious for Kodiak Island. None out west, none for the Panhandle, none up north. Upper level wind flow showing basically higher pressure here holding in across the eastern Gulf of Alaska and the southeast coast. Upper level low here is going to gradually track eastward. This southwest flow again will develop and bring that system into the Panhandle late tomorrow night and on Sunday for wet and rainy conditions. Otherwise, more clouds and showers in over southern Alaska. And for the 9,000 foot chart, not too strong here, southeast 10 to 15 or 5 to 15, even lighter over the interior, but possibly up to 25 knots off the eastern Arctic coast, and southerlies at about 10 for the Panhandle. Westerlies, northwest to westerlies there for the Aleutian, southern Bering Sea, 20 to 30 knots. 3,000 foot winds, west-northwest at about 25 along the central Aleutians. Very light here over the eastern Bering Sea, through the Bering Strait. All of interior Alaska, just 5 to 10 knots, variable directions. Southwest here, maybe a little stronger, could be up to 20 knots there along the western Arctic coast in toward the afternoon. Light winds also for the Panhandle. Turbulence, none expected, except possibly out here over the central Aleutians. Light to isolated moderate, mostly below 4,000 feet. And after hangar flying, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Good evening, I'm Harry Keeling, and on behalf of the Alaskan Aviation Safety Foundation and Alaska Public Media, welcome to Hangar Flying. Our guest this evening is Colonel Lars Hubert, who is the 11th Air Force Vice Commander, and this is the third time he's been on the program. Talked a little bit about flying students who are allies in the foreign military sales. Talked last time about flying the C-130 versus the F-16 versus the T-6. I want to pull it all together tonight and give Lars an opportunity to talk a little bit about his philosophy and his perspective on flying safety. Lars, welcome back.
Thanks, good to be back.
So, the Air Force has always been concerned about flying safety. Mm-hmm. They've tried very hard to create a culture of aviation safety. Right. And the record, I think, proves it, particularly when you look at the types of missions that they fly.
You bet.
Talk a little bit about some of the techniques that you use at the numbered Air Force level, or the wing level, or squadron level, or flight level. And
sure, and I think the most applicable one would be that flight level, as far as being that instructor, because that's really where the rubber meets the road, as it were. I've instructed in the 3 different airplanes you're talking about. I've had a myriad of different experiences, whether I've had a student that's right off the street where I'm flying his first mission, but I've also flown with guys that have several thousand hours in other airplanes transitioning to an F-16 or some other kind of airplane. And you treat them a little bit differently, but you still go back to the basic laws, I think. Where being an instructor, you got to know what's going on. That situational awareness that all of us kind of talk about. Being able to see and feel what's going on around you and be able to predict what's getting ready to happen. That's key. And also knowing what your students' limitations are, quite honestly. If you're dealing with that student that it's first time in an airplane, you're going to be flying quite a bit. Doing a lot of the demonstration of a few things, whether it's traffic pattern stalls or loops, those kind of things.
So let me interrupt you there, because I want to ask you a very specific question. There's a lot of young CFIs or IPs or instructors out in the audience.
Right.
One of the hardest lessons, I think, to learn is, when do you grab the stick to prevent the student from hurting himself, right, but also letting him push the envelope a little bit to learn?
Sure. The fine line, right? So I've always kind of taken that and really kind of done a little internal risk management. Am I close to the ground? Is there an airfield somewhere nearby? What's the maneuver that we're doing? Those are all considerations in part of that situational awareness that allows me to kind of judge how far to let the student go. If I've flown with him previously and know that we've accomplished that maneuver, I've demonstrated it, he has at least partially demonstrated it, we've sat on the ground and pre-briefed exactly what he's going to see and experience, I'm apt to let him go a little bit farther, because he does need to learn those mistakes. He does need to see, well, if I do this incorrectly, what's going to happen? So I think that's pretty critical, but at the same time, I'm also guarding that stick, where I'm pretty close.
We've got just a little less than 3 minutes left, but I really want you to talk briefly about a B-52 incident that happened very recently, because there's some real lessons there.
There are, and it comes back to that culture of safety, and it is ingrained. It is ingrained in the culture of the Air Force, particularly the flying community, and it always has been. And really, a lot of it comes back to expectations. Training, pre-briefing, particularly in a crew airplane. And this B-52, yes, there's a crew airplane. Matter of fact, there were seven on the aircraft. One more than they have ejection seats. It was on initial takeoff where they lost power in a heavyweight airplane. The aircraft commander, because of safety, had already really kind of flown this type of a scenario several times in the simulator. Same thing with his co-pilot. So they were able to make a split-second decision as to whether to continue the takeoff and get the thing airborne, dealing with it, which causes a lot of other problems and a lot of other unknowns, or keep the thing on the ground and potentially run off the runway, knowing that you might have hot brakes and those kind of things. So he made at least initially, it seems like it's the right call of keeping it on the ground, knowing he's going to have hot brakes, knowing that his drag chute is probably going to stream, but he's able to get it stopped. He was able to successfully get all of his crew off the airplane, and they were all safe. The aircraft, sad to say, but it was not in such good shape, but at least the safety of it. So no one was hurt on the ground, none of the crew was hurt, and relatively minimal damage with the exception of the aircraft.
Wow. Well, I think that is a true credit to the training and the professionalism of that crew. You know, you often wonder, are there read across between general aviation, and let's take that situation. I mean, most GA pilots don't have the opportunity to fly in simulators.
True.
But they certainly can hang or fly what they're doing. And
Yes.
if they're taking off a runway, it doesn't hurt to look off the end of the runway and think, what happens if I have to abort here?
Yes.
What happens if I get 200 feet in the air? And hopefully most of our people think that way, but I think we could all do a little bit better job of it.
Agreed.
So, well, I sure have appreciated you being on the program.
Thanks. It's been great.
Appreciate you and General Handy being at the helm at Elmendorf, and look forward to maybe flying some floats with you.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for being on the program
Thanks
tonight.
for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed tonight's program. Once again, I'd like to make a plea. If you're not a member of the Safety Foundation, it's $35 a year for individuals or $110 for corporate membership. And it's what enables us to do what we do, and hopefully we can all fly safer. So until next time, fly safe.
Today's sea ice analysis looks something like this. A lot of open area here from the Bering Strait up to about there, and areas of open water on the west side. Had some multi-year ice slipping back down toward Barrow on the north and northwest winds of those series of lows that have been pulling off to the east over the last few days. And moving on to the coastal forecast here, out along the coast on the north side, southwest 10, pretty light, westerlies 10 to 15 down to the south. Really pretty light winds, northern Link Canal increasing to 20 knots, seas building to 4 feet in the afternoon. That same pattern holds through Sunday, otherwise southeast 10 to 15 over the central and southern inside waters. And kind of a variable wind pattern here, not in the north side there, southeast 15, but on the central and south coast, west 25, good for small craft advisories there, south 20. And for Prince William Sound, southeast 15, southwest 15 for Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, 15 knots out of the south, 20 knots, Kamishak Bay and Shelikof Strait, southwest 20 for Kodiak Island, otherwise southerlies at 15. And for Sunday, variable to southwest, northern Cook Inlet, all at 10 knots or less with pretty slight seas. Westerlies, light westerlies here for the North Gulf Coast, back to the Barren Islands into Kamishak Bay. 10 knots, pretty slight seas as well. West 15 for Shelikof Strait and the east side of Kodiak Island. For Bristol Bay tomorrow, south at 10, 15 here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. And then we've got southwesterlies from Cape Sarachef right up to Sitkinak at 20 knots with 7 to 8 foot seas. And then for Sunday, very uniform wind pattern here with westerlies at 20 knots. All areas, seas 3 feet here on up into Bristol Bay, 8 feet on the south side of the peninsula from Sitkinak to Cape Sarachef. And for the eastern Aleutians, for the Fox Islands, southwesterlies 15 to 20 tomorrow, but small craft advisories there west of Nikolsky all the way out to Shemya, with the seas running anywhere from 7 to 9 feet. And the outlook for Sunday, those winds lighten up south to southwest here on the western Aleutians at about 20 knots, 5 foot seas, west-southwest 15 to 20 in the central Aleutians, and that pattern extends across the Fox Islands as well. For the St. Lawrence Island, forecast tomorrow, southeast at 10, so laying down pretty good, northeast 15, north of Nunivak Island, southwest 10, there in toward Kuskokwim Bay. Light variable winds for the Pribilofs and about the same there for St. Matthew Island. And then the winds kick up, more gradient there. Southwest 25, small craft advisories also back in the forecast for St. Lawrence Island. 20-knot winds from the west-northwest along the southwest coast. Light winds for the Pribilofs. The Arctic coast, Wales to Cape Thompson, west at 10, 20 knots, turn westerly to southwest 20 to southerly 20 on the east side, and then drop back to about 15 toward demarcation point. And for Sunday, south to southeast 20 knots on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, southwesterlies here, 20 knots, pick up the small craft advisory levels there on the western coast all the way down to the Bering Strait. And for tonight, again, pretty dry and fair up here, North Slope, Brooks Range, into the Koyukuk, Upper Yukon Valley, where it'll become mostly cloudy. Isolated thunderstorms possible tonight, otherwise mostly cloudy, scattered showers. Better chance of showers down through here out to Togiak Bay, Dillingham, maybe King Salmon. Isolated showers, mostly cloudy, Kodiak Island, the Alaska Peninsula, and increasing clouds and an increasing chance of a scattered shower or two for the Panhandle. And then tomorrow, partly to mostly cloudy with a few showers around, otherwise not too bad there, maybe some clearing, and pretty concentrated area precipitation out here to the west, along the Alaska Range back to the west, with some pretty good chance of showers into Cook Inlet, especially into the afternoon, some of that into the Copper River Basin, lots of showers out to the west. And for Sunday, isolated thunderstorms through this area, showers south central Alaska. Another cold front again increases the southwest winds and the chance of precipitation on the western Arctic coast. Periods of rain there for the Panhandle. Have a great weekend.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.